Mesoamerica or South America compared to the North Atlantic Indians. And then Coral, right? Coral wants to say.
Basically, the difference between them is the more kind of south, they base their kind of community on agriculture, like kind of really big, having a surplus food. Where the people kind of up north, they hunted and gathered.
Okay, that would be one thing. That's good. One simple, basic thing. That's definitely what you should know. Oh, what's your name again? Jonathan.
Yeah, the population is, there's more in the south than the north.
Absolutely. So what you would do is you would make a list of 5 things for the Southern Indians or the Spanish Indians is really what it's going to correlate to, and the English and North American up here. Who was going to Cuba in here? I brought you a book if you wanted to borrow it. I couldn't remember who it was. So after class you can go. Sorry. Anybody else?
Nichols, Kyle. The Mesoamericans and South Americans were feudal and imperialistic.
Okay. Anybody else?
The Mesoamericans and like the Mayans, and their technology was a lot more sophisticated.
Good. Okay, so you got the idea? So think of Sprite. Sprite. Can you do a Sprite for Aztecs? So social, they had hierarchy, a division of labor. Political, it was imperial, theocratic. Religious is polytheistic. Intellectual, they didn't have writing, but they had a kind of mythology. I'm sure that's true. Technological was limited metal. Oh wait, I missed. And economic is agriculture, cities, trade, somewhat trade. Okay, anyway. You got it? Okay, good. Any questions about the North Coast guys? Did we finish them? Did we finish those guys?
Yeah.
Okay, so they're totally different. More mobile, more precarious lifestyles, more warlike. I don't know if that's true. Maybe it's not totally true. But you had these guys here were used to just being, farmers. These guys were both hunters and gatherers and warriors. They had to be, that's just a kind of a style. Yeah.
Would you say that because the Mesoamericans were more imperialistic and centralized and bureaucratic, that was what caused them to be easier taken down much quicker?
Yeah. The Native American, that's kind of the end story. What you see this when the Spanish get there, they chop off the head of the Aztec Empire and place themselves. And the tradition was already established that they were the other tribes and other groups were used. I'm sorry.
Like the tribute system where everyone just works with whoever the leader was.
Yeah.
It was already there.
It was already there. And once you destroy the leadership, because they would go in and say, do you want to work with us? Do you want to work with us? No, you're dead. Do you want to work with us? No, you're dead. Do you want to work with us? Okay. Then you were in charge of your people, and so you would get benefits. They did the work. And the Spanish, I don't know, is it better that they don't sacrifice people? They don't cut their hearts out or not?
For some people, yes, but for like priests and the people who thought that it was.
But for the majority of these people, they would say, yeah, we like the Spanish were not as bad as the Aztecs, supposedly. Anyway, you see? Oh, yeah. This is a cool cartoon. Anybody want to talk about it? Everybody see? It says, did you detect something a little ominous in the way they said, see you later? What's your name?
Crap.
Michaela. You don't like it? You seem a little sarcastic.
No,
You love it.
it's awesome. I love it. I'm gonna get it
That's real
framed.
sarcasm in action. You like it?
Tattoo.
Yeah.
Any other comments? I thought this was funny. This is, the reference to Nina Pinta Santa Maria. It's Columbus. Why are these guys like, what's so ominous about that, Someone else.
Little do they know.
Or wait, this one?
I don't know why I'm looking at these names because I'm not going to remember. Colin.
We'll be back.
We'll be back. And what else?
You're all gonna die.
Foreshadowing. What's Rosemary? What's going to happen? It's going to be a transformation completely of their lifestyle, especially the ones on the islands that Columbus first meets. They are dead. They will die within like 30, 20 years because of diseases mostly. So that introduces Columbus and the exploration. I don't think these guys will be on a test, so don't write them down. But I think it's interesting to look at some of it.
Here's my marker.
Is my marker pen back there? Board for the board thing? Is it on the desk there? Does anybody see it? Yeah, that one doesn't work. Keep looking. If I can't write on the board, it's really hard for me to.
Did you take it somewhere?
It's on that desk somewhere, I'm sure of it.
In my pockets.
Nicole? Nichols? Is that your first name? Oh.
What?
Okay, Nicholas, help her look for it. It's got to be on that desk, because I was
Jump
sitting there
aisle.
before I went on for a walk. Damn it. All right, moving on. So, one thing you, see, there it is. One thing, just pass it, yeah. You need to know about Amerigo Vespucci is he did not discover America. He is basically we named it after him because he was, are you filming me?
Yes.
What are you going to do with that?
Put it on the blog.
I don't mind, that's good. So you don't have to take notes.
Not really.
You need to get a little holder.
Get a tripod.
Get a selfie stick.
That works.
Wow.
Oh god.
Yes.
Oh god.
You could
You could hold it.
just tape it up there.
Or just tape the camera up there. Why are you taping the camera?
It's
chilling.
It's
chilling right there. It's chilling.
Whatever. Whatever. Just don't make me look bad. Alright.
Oh, we will.
So one thing about the one thing you should know is that America is named after him because he publicized and made maps, and so they just associated his name with the region. It's kind of propaganda, you know. His name got associated with it. So that's only one thing I would say you need to know, or it's interesting to know. Ponce de Leon in Florida, Balboa, Panama, Magellan. This guy goes around the world, first European, or at least supposedly first European to do that. Anybody know what happened to him?
Killed by pygmies.
He got killed by the natives.
Where?
In,
Philippines. There's my friend read a really good book about it. That, yeah, very few got back. And then this guy, Cabot. Why do you think he's? Why do we want you to know who Cabot is? This one I would say is probably the most important piece here. Anybody? But who's not you three? Okay.
Because he was looking for a new, easier way
Joe.
for colonization.
No, but I think it's the legacy. He claimed it for the English, and we, of course, are descendants from that English claim. So if the Spanish were up here and probably claimed it, then that's why it's significant, I think. It's the first step for the English to claim this territory. He's looking for a Northwest Passage. Everybody know what that is? Everybody know what a Northwest Passage is? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Raise your hand, you know what the Northwest is. Okay, if you raise your hand, you don't know, we want to review. Northwest Passage is this. It's the idea that you can get to Asia going through the north of going west. Does that make sense? A lot of explorers are looking for the Northwest Passage, and don't get it. He was one of them, because it doesn't exist, by the way. Unless maybe in our era with global warming, this is, they think it's some kind of, you can get through, or maybe up here you can get through to Asia. It's much farther and longer, more difficult, but this is all ice. So maybe when global warming melts all this, we'll probably be able to float there.
How convenient.
Learn more.
Anyway, so that never was a real passage to India. Here's the map of the various explorers. This is Magellan, is that color. He goes around, bounces around. By the way, the Spanish claim the Philippines based on Magellan. Columbus did a little bit of this. He never really knew he found a new continent. Hence the name Indians. I think that's interesting. The French, if you look at the French had really significant exploration in North America. Very interesting. Coming down the Mississippi, we'll see some of those names. They will claim a lot of territory. English will be rivals with the French. This guy, where's the Dutch, man? Where's the Dutch? He's not in here. Henry Hudson. You guys know the story of Henry Hudson? Mm-hmm. Henry Hudson. You heard the name, Matthew? Heard of Hudson River?
Yeah.
Hudson River goes north-south to New York City. The mouth of the Hudson River comes out at Manhattan, which is the big island like New York City. It goes up to upstate New York, like Albany. Anyway, Henry Hudson explored that with the Dutch. So we got to know about Henry Hudson for sure for the Dutch exploration. You know what happened? Anybody know the end of the story of Henry Hudson besides you? God, you know it all, don't you? Okay, go ahead, tell us.
He consistently kept pushing his crew because he too was obsessed about the Northwest Passage, how they were going to find it, and eventually his crew got fed up with him, put him in a life raft, and left him to freeze to death in the Hudson Bay.
Right, Hudson Bay is up here.
Yes.
Yeah, so after he gets Hudson River and he claims New York State area for the Dutch, New Amsterdam and New Netherlands, he does another expedition again up here looking for the Northwest Passage, and then he says, the crew said, "Nah, we're tired of the cold, and we were afraid we're gonna die and freeze." And he said, "No, we keep going." And they said, "Okay, you keep going." And they put he and his son in a lifeboat and left. And nobody knows what happened to Henry Hudson.
How old was his son?
He probably died. Yes.
How old was his son?
I don't remember. Probably a teenager. Don't know. Kyle, do you know?
Oh, I
Have an answer by tomorrow. Okay.
I'll find one.
Jonathan?
Del Cano, dude.
Who?
Del Cano. Down on the bottom, like where Australia is. Yeah.
Oh, he was the takeover
From the
captain.
Philippines.
Never heard of him.
Killed.
That's still the Magellan expedition. That's Magellan expedition. So he probably.
Another one?
No, that's the same Magellan.
I know, but like.
Magellan
I didn't
died.
see it-
Magellan dies
and
here, but
then-
he probably took over from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't see it make it all the way to Spain though. I was
Moving on.
very worried.
South America, when the Spanish conquer the Aztecs, then they go after the Incas. You need to know kind of about the dates, 1520 to 1530, 1530s, 1520s. They divide up their empire, and this is a map that shows kind of their colonies. So we have, they're called their colonies viceroys, viceroyalty. Viceroyalty instead of colony, it's called a viceroyalty. New Spain is this big one. It's giant. Peru, La Plata, and New Granada. So they only have 3 colonies. Brazil is Portuguese, not Spanish. You know what the story with that? The Treaty of Tordesillas,
Yeah.
Tordesillas, or whatever. Tortilla.
No, no, it's
Treaty of
not
the
actually
Tortilla.
called that.
What's it called? Tortoisellis. Tortosia.
Eternal.
Anybody care about that? We don't really care about it in here, but it's interesting to know why and how. Anybody care? You know why?
Yes.
What?
So the Portuguese and the Spanish were conflicting over this whole new continent. They were about to go to war when the papacy stepped in and said, all right, let's just divide the entire world into two halves, the Portuguese half of the world and the Spanish half of the world, and not really concerning that the world is round. On the west of the line of Tordesillas is the Spanish side, which is where all Spain's colonies were, and then to the east was Brazil.
Okay, so the end result will be there'll be peaceful separation. Brazil will be a separate colonial organization with Portugal, and then the rest will be claimed by Spain. Different types of Indians in Brazil, by the way. The Indians of Brazil match the North American Indians in terms of their population and lifestyle. They're not highly sophisticated civilizations, and they will have a very similar example of the English, honestly, in Brazil. But we'll talk about Brazil again later. Let's talk about Aztecs briefly. You guys know the story of Cortez? You want to tell us?
Huh?
How does Cortez conquer the Aztecs?
Wasn't it through brute force?
It's a mixed bag. Let's go with someone else who hasn't spoken. Yes, Caitlin Conway.
Wasn't it that he pretended to be this god prophet, and so everyone believed him, and then he basically conquered the world?
Pretty good, pretty close. I mean, he didn't deliberately pretend, but it was a coincidence, and he let it perpetuate.
Just went on with it.
Perpetuate. Yeah, let me give you the 2-minute explanation since we only have 15 minutes left. Well, actually, we have a half an hour, don't we?
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it. So, interesting thing about the Aztecs again is their I can't read that. Let's see. Okay, Tenochtitlan. Okay, that's Mexico City today. That's the Aztec focus. That's the empire. These other places around here and were basically served or dominated by the Aztecs. They were different ethnic group Indians, right, or different culture Indians, and the Aztecs dominated them militarily and forced them to pay tribute in gold, in labor, and in lives, sacrifices, humans for sacrifice. And so these guys did not like the Aztecs. So Cortez comes out, and Cortez, by the way, what was Cortez? You guys know Cortez's job before he comes to Americas? His job was a mercenary. He was basically a mercenary, and as were all of the conquistadors. They were in Spain. You know what's going on, the Reconquista. They're fighting this 300 years war against the Muslim invasion. Muslims, remember?
Yeah.
And so they finally win in 1492. They had kicked out the Muslims. They start the Inquisition. You remember that? Where they're kind of purifying their religious society, kicked out a bunch of Jews and everybody else. Cortez comes from that tradition of constant fighting. And he was a mercenary. He's looking for gold. There's no more cities in Spain to conquer, no more Muslim cities. So now this whole class of people are going, what do we do now? Oh, New World, what's there? Maybe there's places we can get rich there. And so he ends up going to Cuba for a number of years, which was one of the big locations of the early Spanish. And then he hears about, okay, we know about this coastal area, this new place. They hear stories that there's gold and stuff there. He takes an expedition there with about how many?
500 somewhere.
You got it in your reading notes, but I have some too. Let's see. 1518, Cortez in Cuba. anyway, I don't have my details, but it doesn't say how many guys.
I think it was like 600.
Yeah, it wasn't that many at first. But anyway, he goes there and he hits the coast, and they see these guys. They have horses. Natives did not have horses. They have armor. Natives had never seen armor like that. They have firearms, cannon, steel, and plumed hats, right? Well, again, Quetzalcoatl, you know that story. Quetzalcoatl was like a Jesus figure for the Aztecs and Aztec religion, and they mistook him for Quetzalcoatl, who was supposed to return, from wherever and make a new, the savior of the people. So they didn't know what they saw. They thought they were, had superpowers, and so they figured, oh, that's him. He's come back. One of the first things they did was they gave tribute, and you'll see this in the American context too. The local tribe, after having encounters and even a little bit of fighting with them, they push the daughter of the chief, who probably had 20 or 30 or 40 daughters, a lot of kids. It wasn't a different kind of thing. And so he pushes one, and she ends up becoming a translator. Her name is in Spanish history is Doña Maria. You guys ever heard of her?
No.
From Euro or World History should. Her name was Doña Maria, and her nickname was Malinche. Anybody know what Malinche means? Any Spanish Latinas here that know? It's Mexican. It's a Mexican term. Malinche? No? A Malinche, well, anyway, Doña Maria ends up learning Spanish and becomes the translator and wife of Cortez. And she basically helps Cortez learn about who the Aztecs were, what the Aztec story is, that the Aztecs are hated by most of the tribes, and that they do human sacrifice and all these horrible things. So Cortez gets the idea, I gotta go to see this big city, Tenochtitlan, and I have to see the way they organize it, and maybe I've got a way to conquer it, divide and conquer, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna make friends with these other tribes, and then we're gonna conquer the Aztecs. And then what are we gonna do? We're gonna control them again, just like the Aztecs did. And basically that's what happens in the short picture. Meanwhile, you also have massive diseases that are going to aid. So you have technology that helps, superstition that helps, and diseases. These are the big, and then also reinforcements. You get more people from Cuba and Spain to come, and these are professional soldiers. Okay, so these factors help Cortez conquer an overwhelming population of people. Also, the imperial structure. The imperial structure of the Aztecs helps the Spanish conquer the Aztecs. You got it? So if you were to look at, well, what are the factors? These were the big ones. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Also, Malinche today is a derogatory term for a Mexican woman. Why is this considered derogatory, do you think? In Mexico, mostly. Yes.
Well, maybe because the first
Alexis Coral.
Yes. The first woman was kind of a traitor in a way. So
Yeah. That's what it
kind
means.
of tied back to that.
A Malinche is a Mexican girl who dates white boys. Is that funny?
Yes.
What the heck is this? Transported student form. What's that mean?
Just give it to him. It's for the bus.
Oh, it's for somebody. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Carranza? Right? Jesus? Yeah.
It just means like a time change on one of their bus stops.
Okay. Oh.
Or just if you could just give it to it, it's a summons.
Angelica? Bennett? Thank you. So, you don't think that's funny? Malinche, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of funny.
I have a friend who's a Malinche. Okay, you guys are great. All right. So there's a pattern of conquest. Technology is a factor. Aztecs and the Incas, again, the imperial factor is a pattern you see with the Incas. Also, divide and conquer. The imperial structure is an issue. They removed the imperial leadership and they placed themselves at the top. So those are all things that really help, as well as disease. Okay, you got the big picture? You don't need to copy all of it. Just I explained it already. So. Right? Okay. What are the characteristics of Spanish population? So you want to get this stuff. This is like your how the Spanish organized their colony, and you're going to compare that to the French and the Dutch, and then for sure the English. Okay, so for that essay question, remember, how is it Spanish different? That's what you wanted. This is kind of golden stuff for that. First of all, the Spanish will not bring massive population. There'll be very few Spaniards coming from Spain compared to, say, the English. The English are going to put tons of people early, as you should be reading about now. Like Jamestown's not the good example, but Plymouth, New Massachusetts, New England colonies, lots and lots of immigrants are going to show up there early. And we're going to have massive population in the English context, but not in Spanish. Spanish just don't need that many people. You know why?
They have all
They have the native labor. And so they're going to have massive, they're going to have the upper Spanish population will be in charge, and the native labor will be working for them and producing things, etc. Got it? Questions? Okay, so population is one. Council of the Indies, total control from Spain. Total control from Spain. Lots of laws, lots of bureaucracy. It's going to be known as mercantilism. Mercantilism is going to be the dominant philosophy with the Spanish, and of course all of them will be mercantilist too. But for sure with the Spanish it starts. Yes?
Our textbook didn't really cover Brazil. How was the Portuguese colonial structure?
It's different because of the reliance on slavery is the number one difference. The natives in Brazil will fight and run into the forest and are smaller populations. There won't be sedentary agriculture groups.
Were there more
And they probably won't
peninsulares,
survive. Even the small agriculture groups that do survive, you know, they're not the same type of large populations, etc. So they will fight and resist much more than, say, Mexico or the Incas area. The same in Argentina. There was a lot of Indians in Argentina, but they were, again, more hunter-gatherers, and they were not able to be dominated in a enslaved way. Like, say, Mexican Indians were not typically slaves, but they did produce labor and all of that. So
were there more peninsulares from Portugal or from Spain?
I would say it's probably similar.
Okay.
Like, never did much on Brazil. Who cares really about it? I mean, are there any Brazilians here? Any Portuguese people? Do you know anything about?
Portuguese, but barely.
Yeah, I don't know much about it. Mercantilist concept says there's an exclusive relationship. It's like it's kind of a incestuous relationship almost, that they want exclusive mother and colony relationship. Specific things go to the mother to the colony and specifically comes out of the colony. And there's no other trade. This is an economic, this would be your E. This is your economic philosophy. Manufactured products, raw materials. Raw materials come from the colony, manufactured products go to the colony in that way. And basically the colony exists to support the mother country. I don't know a good metaphor for that, but it's the mother dominates the child and the child has to give to the mother, etc. A colony exists to empower and enrich and serve the mother country. If you have a better metaphor for that, I'd be interested to know what it would be.
Wait, so does that mean all the golden raw materials go, or did it keep some?
Yeah, all of it. Anything of value, it's extraction economy. Colonies are extraction economy. They take stuff from the colony and then they sell stuff to the colony. Okay? It's mostly just extraction. We're taking all this stuff out. As it develops, the colony is going to buy stuff. But that's later, I think. Gold raw materials go to the mother country, manufacturers go to the colony. That's in the most sophisticated when they have a population to buy the goods. All trade is supposed to go exclusive. Illegal to trade with other colonies and other countries. What do you think, Maddie? You like that system? You love it? Okay. Smuggling evolves. Smuggling evolves because guess what? This is kind of a controlled economy. The mother country kind of dominated what they would pay and the rules. Almost, I wouldn't say socialism, but it wasn't just free market. This is not free market. This is limited capitalism. So there's lots of smuggling. And you'll see this as we get into the American Revolution, because the English do the same thing, but really strict. Where's my map? Let me go back to a map. So, for example, if you're down here in Mexico and you want, what the hell would they want? Any other goods? That's not good. How about let's do the Caribbean. Caribbean was where they produced lots of sugar and had lots and lots of slavery. If you wanted certain goods from over here in Virginia and the Carolinas, etc., maybe you wanted foodstuffs like rice or something to feed the slaves, or ship stores, things of that nature that you could use. You could not just go up here and get it if you were in the Spanish colonies in the Caribbean. You had to go to Spain to buy your stuff and bring it back. If you lived in that colony, you're like, come on, it's right there. We can just get it, and it's cheaper. They would want it. So there'll be widespread smuggling in the Spanish colonies. You would have merchant ships. It's kind of interesting that would go from coming down the English colonies, and they'd come in here and they would trade. They would trade with the Spanish colonies illegally, because the residents, the colonists, didn't care. They wanted cheaper goods, right? So smuggling is going to be an issue for the length of time in the Spanish colonies, as well as it becomes in the English colonies too. Fun fact, let's see. Okay. Let's see, Columbus, who cares? Cortez, we got about the dates. 1520s when he's conquering the Aztecs. He ends up being the most successful. He goes back to Spain and retires wealthy. Pizarro dies in Peru. If you ever go to Peru in Lima, they have my ex-wife was from Peru. They have this place called the Plaza de Armas. Anyone been to Peru? Any Peruvians in the house? You been there?
No, but I'm into Peru.
You've been to Peru?
I'm into Peru.
Oh, watch out for the women. All right. So anyway, they have this main square. Most Latin American cities will have one main square where everything is there. The Plaza de Armas, they call it. So they have the church, they have the king, and they have like the bureaucracy, etc. Pizarro is buried in the church that basically he built on that in that main city. He's got a big golden casket or something. Yeah. Anyway, Pizarro, 1530s. 1549, the Brazil gets some settlement, so it's later. Buenos Aires, 1580. Okay, those are the colonies. Look at all that. Social hierarchy, and this is kind of a political structure too. The higher you are, the more power you have. So we have, everyone repeat, Peninsulare, Criollo, Mestizo, Zambo, Indian. Okay, so with this structure, if you were Peninsular, you were born in Spain, the Iberian Peninsula. If you were Criollo, you were white, and you were born in New World. That's an N. That's a W. You're born in the New World. Mestizo, you are mixed. European, I should say white or European. European plus native. Zambo is mixed also. It's African and native or European mix. And then Indian, come on, we know what that means. Pure blood. So it's kind of a caste system, isn't it? Because there's a racial designation, generally. If you were Peninsulare, you had political power. Political and economic power. You were part of the government. You were eligible to be part of the government. You had political power, right? There's no voting. You're all appointed. There's no voting. You're appointed by the hierarchy, by the king. So the viceroy is the king's representative. He's like the governor, right? He's appointed. He must be a Peninsulare. The mayor of cities and towns, whatever, must be Peninsulares. Council members must be Peninsulares. Does that make sense? So political power is controlled by the Peninsulares. Now, what's kind of interesting, I think, is if you are a Peninsulare and somehow you brought your wife with you, which was rare, not too many women. This is a key factor in the social aspects. Mostly male, especially in the first 50 years. Mostly male. But let's say you brought your wife there, and you have an offspring, which is a criollo. If it's born in New World, right? Would that criollo be entitled and eligible to run in government or anything like that? No. What was that?
Land shark.
Wait, we've got a list. Where's the schedule? Here, is this it? We've got a chart. How many times Richard interrupts the class this year?
Zambo. Isn't that what cleans the ice rink?
Zamboni?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that was it.
Yes. Where's the list? Here it is. Okay, put the date. You're in charge of keeping track. Period. What period is this?
4.
4. This is only the 3rd time today.
Can I put the date on the top?
No, it should be a period, and just write the date in. Keeping track of the timing. Peninsular, they have a baby. It's born in the New World. It's a criollo. They don't have a
Criollo. You mean a Creole?
Criollo, no. Creole's different.
What's a Creole?
That's like a native.
C-R-O. Isn't it E-O-L-L-E, Creole?
There's one out.
Spell it.
Wait.
C-R-E-O-L-E. Really? Okay. Creole. That's a very specific designation for people in like French New Orleans area. I know that your master's or your degree was in Latin American studies, right? Wait, really? Anyway.
When do we start the interesting stuff?
It's all downhill after Rosh Hashanah. Remember he said that? Okay, so what was very common, there are two ways to get around this, to have a baby in the New World. Oftentimes, a great story.
So if you and
Maria-
Edith had a baby, what
Maria-
would it be?
If you had a baby?
No, if you and Edith had a baby.
It'd be a
You're the
miracle.
gringo.
It'd be a immaculate.
Patricio Jr.
Yeah. Be a disaster. Anyway, so if Maria Antonia from Castillo, right? Castillo, that place over there. She comes and she shows up and they after a month she's like, I'm not feeling well, starts throwing up in the morning. What happens immediately?
You ship her.
She goes back if you're smart. If she survives the birth voyage. Get rid of her. No, she goes back and she has the baby, and it's very common. A lot of records about this.
She goes back to Spain?
Goes back to Spain to have the baby.
Because it's socially better? To
Well, social, economically better.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. Okay.
Politically, because the offspring would have all of the rights and privileges of a
Oh,
peninsulare.
interesting. Okay.
Yes, sir. Mr. Brenton. I'm sorry. Lucas.
His name isn't Lucas.
It says Lucas. What is your name?
It's Lucas.
It's like, what?
That's not what it says. I'm sorry.
How can you share the baby on the boat? You're from the ocean now.
It'd be a peninsulare.
Does that mean you could just walk back onto a ship?
That's why we need to cancel the 14th Amendment.
That's really an anchor baby now, huh?
Anchor baby.
That's really an anchor baby if she's born on the boat. All right, moving on.
Damn Europeans coming and ruining our country.
That's what the natives said.
I know.
First nativists. Nativists, Indians.
Okay, that's good.
They don't
trust it. Nobody cares. All right, so there was a lot of sending them back. The other thing, and I know this is kind of a stereotype for Latin America, but I have been a lot of interaction with Latin America.
How so?
A lot of interaction.
Weren't you married to the devil or something?
She's known as the Diabla. Just kidding. All Peruvians are the Diabla. No, anyway, no, this is really just joking. If you ever go to Mexico and you get stopped by a policeman in Tijuana, what's going to happen?
Mordita.
The mordita. Everybody know what mordita means? Muerde. In Spanish, español. The bite. The bite. What happens if the cop stops you? He says, I'm not going to use an accent. You were speeding. And you say, I can't.
Tijuanero accent.
I wasn't hello, I don't know. I wasn't speeding. You have to follow me to the police station. Is there some way
Can you be the policeman and I'll be Mr. Sanchez?
Yeah.
He gets pulled over for speed.
I'm not condoning any of that. But so they would say, You know, is there some way we can take care of this between ourselves? So I have an appointment, I need to go. Oh, yes.
Right now?
You can pay the ticket. You can pay the ticket now. That's like a bribe, right? You know that's a bribe. If you ever get stopped in a Latin American country and you don't want to go to their prison or jail, you say, is there some way we can take care of this ticket now, or that you could pay the fine for me? You know, that way it's very common, the mordida. And so you pay the ticket to the cop, and the cop puts it in his pocket and drives away. You drive to the border as fast as you can. So that is what does that represent? Lock the door. What does that represent?
Leaves.
Corruption.
Corruption. Latin America is known for corruption, probably as much as Europe is known for corruption too, but really Latin America is totally known for corruption. If you ever want to do business, you just have to pay someone to get things done. Massive bureaucracy, but you can sidestep all the bureaucracy and just pay the money to somebody who can get things done. If you're ever in trouble, then think about that. So what would happen is they would forge the papers, and this baby would now be a peninsulare. Get it? So that's a common thing. Now, criollos had certain rights and privileges, ethnicity. They were mostly economic power. They had economic power, owning property and things of that nature. The mestizos were mixed. They will eventually have economic power, but they're going to be more like artisans and some privileges. There's going to be a lot of mestizos because there was tons of interaction with Cortez's men and the Spanish with native groups. You understand that. Zambo, there will not be much slavery at all in the New World with the Spanish colonies because they had so much labor already, especially on the mainland. They don't need to import labor. But there will be some Africans that will come to Mexico and South America, but very small population, except for Brazil. Hold on a minute. So in Brazil, you should not be putting your stuff away. I'll give everyone 5 minutes if you put your stuff away and interrupt me. Please don't. You have plenty of time. So in Brazil, we have a large population of African slaves because they have much harsher conditions. The Indians didn't work. They would run away into the forest, into the jungle and the forest, etc. They couldn't be typically used for labor in Brazil. So there's massive population of African imported slaves. Caribbean islands, there's a ton of imported slaves, African slaves, because the Indians died off pretty quickly and pretty early. Probably after 60 years of colonial contact with the Spanish, most of the Indians will be dead on the islands in the Caribbean. So they will start importing, especially when the sugarcane plantations, etc., become really profitable. In 16, 17, early 1800s, tons of more slaves will go to the Caribbean than any place in the New World. Huge, horrible situation there. Death was very, very common. Life expectancy was very, very low. So they just need to replenish that population all the time, and that really makes a difference in the slave trade. Okay, so we learn about slavery, early slavery in Caribbean with this discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Can you remember that? Mm-hmm. Brazil, Caribbean, not Mexico, not South America mostly. At least the western part of South America, they don't have slavery at all, or very, very low. And then lastly, the Indians are basically labor. They are segregated. They're in their own communities. Their leaders contracted with the Spanish leadership to, they would submit labor, not slaves. They were not owned. The difference between there, it's just labor. They treated them like slaves, but they didn't buy and sell them. Like they call that chattel. Chattel means ownership slaves. Okay? All right, now any questions and get ready to go.
If two criollos are about to have a child, could they send the mother to Spain?
No. Well,
if they're rich enough.
Maybe.
Because if they were born from, so are.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.